one has a choice of living one's life, right? One comes to this world with the body, 5 senses, mind with its 4 faculties of emotions, intellect, memory, and sense of mind. Now you are given this field and you have to choose how you want to live your life. Okay? So here, somehow, something brought you to this knowledge, in light of which the levels of understanding that you have gone through in this last 2-3 days is just something which is just scales, the scales which are, it's not just simple technique or advice or anything, the scales of vision of what the world is and what's your place in the world has just undergone a major shift. Okay? Now, you also have a choice not to expose yourself to this knowledge. So if you choose, nobody is just privileged like that, right? It's a choice. Where you are going to be at any given point in time, you decide also. Right? If you choose not to expose yourself to this knowledge, which enables you to see things differently, what happens? This is what is Lord Krishna talking about in the next verse. Okay? Here he says, Nasti buddhirayuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shanti ashantasya kutasukam. So, let's chant. Nasti buddhirayuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayata shanti
Nacha bhavayata shanti
ashantasya kutasukam. Then he says, if you don't equip your buddhi with all this understanding, what is all this understanding? What does it include? What does it include? Up to now, what we have seen.
The mind, the emotions, the senses, the correct perception, the net, the concept of that, right?
Presence of laws, nature of mind, the essential nature of mind. All this you have seen in 3 days. Okay? Now, you lived your life for a very long time before these 3 days. And you did not have all these understanding. They are actually not really concepts, because concepts are all abstract things. Right? These realities, your mind was not alive to these realities. Sorry? To this knowledge. Which is there. Like we saw, knowledge is Vastutantra. It's already there. Whether you know it or not, it's there. Okay? Now, you did not have all this knowledge and you still lived your life and you still engaged in the world. What was the quality? And I mean, all of you have actually moved a long way to actually come here. So it's not that this is the first time you are listening to something like that. You have exposed yourself. But imagine that you had not exposed yourself to any of this, and how could you be living your life? Scattered. All scattered. That's a very nice word to use, right? Because even though you have not invested at all in spiritual growth or anything, you still find very brilliant people. Please don't dismiss, right? You find scientists who may not have ever dwelled into nature of I or the cause of the universe or anything. You will find painters, you would find dancers, you would find all these amazing people exhibiting, very successful businessmen. So it's not like they are all completely deluded. Please understand that. Don't reject. We have all these extreme thinking. one thing, and then there are so many areas of my being that I did not take care of. So that means there is no overall wisdom, there is no overall vision with which I live my life. Okay? So she uses a right word. It's all scattered. Where I'm going, why have I come here? What is the purpose? What is the purpose of my living? All these questions, which are very fundamental, are not raised. And they are not, if they are not raised, there is no attempt to answer them. Because I don't have those questions. Or if I have, I choose not to address them thinking that there is no answer. I conclude without sufficiently looking into the answers. Right? So that means my living is all scattered. When you have a scattered living, when you haven't, the Upanishads themselves talk about it, and it's a very nice analogy. Okay, so it says that you have 5 blindfolded people who are asked to touch an elephant, and each one touches a different part. Somebody touches the belly of an elephant. So that person describes the elephant as what? A bone. Somebody touches the tusk of an elephant. Somebody touches the tail of an elephant. Can you say that they are all totally wrong? No. Each one has some truth. But is the vision of the total elephant complete? No. This is what we say, the scattered. They are not totally deluded. Right? A scientist knows many things. Through his own thinking, he has come to atoms. This is not ordinary. A medical scientist knows a lot about the body. A neuroscientist knows a lot about human brain. A psychologist is quite well equipped to understand why you are having the problem that you have. Exactly. So that means each one has like what? Either the tail or the belly or the tusk. It's not totally removed from the elephant, but what is lacking is what? The totality. The total picture within which you put each part in its right place. So that means with that scattered understanding which is highly insufficient, what is the quality of your living? Limited. Part. So that means in part of the things you are lucid, in part of the things you are all confused. So this is why we saw a play, which was a very nice play. It was called Einstein. Right? So there is this whole play where there's Nasruddin Shah, he plays Einstein. And he talks about his own life. And there's only one person in this whole play. And he shows all these amazing achievements that he achieved, that no other human being probably, that contribution he made to just the world of reality was just amazing. Like Rishi, our teacher used to say, you can give him that status of a Rishi because he saw things which so many people did not see. Right? His thinking reached levels which were just incredible. Right? So therefore, now this person achieved highly in one area, and he himself was then saying he was regretting certain actions he took during his lifetime. He says, I was so caught in my desire to understand the world that my wife was dying in the next room and I had no time for her. And he said, I didn't even go to see her. So that means you have a highly evolved human. We are not talking about all madness. Please don't categorize people who will not come to Vedanta as all useless people. They are all accomplished. Not all. Some of them are highly accomplished. Right? But they lack the total vision, in light of which their behaviors are at times highly skewed. Brilliant in one, but totally lacking any sensitivity on the other. And how many times you find people who are highly successful, you go to people who are very intimate to them and they have stories to tell about that person.
Mahatma Gandhi.
Exactly.
Look at his personal life as a shambles.
Absolutely.
Right? Mr. Modi and trying to go and visit Swami, such a busy man.
I know.
Time to go all the way. I mean, he's forward.
Right? So that means that if you, without Vedanta, you can have achievements, but they are not what? Whole. They are not the whole exactly. They are scattered. So when you have scattered achievements, what happens is you derive satisfaction from some, but for things that you have not had proper perspective for, what happens? You derive what? All kinds of problem like anybody else.
Because they're not based on truth. You haven't understood the
Totality. Right. So this is what it says, that you don't have right attitudes with reference to everything. It's all scattered. Sometimes you're brilliant, sometimes you're confused. That's why somebody who can do so, I've come across people who are like CEOs of companies and so well known, but when they go home they batter their wives. I mean, this is an extreme example, but it happens in different degrees. Mentally tortured, looked down. These are all, they are subtle levels.
Sense of proportion here.
They are exactly different degrees. So that means in those areas there is a confusion. When there is confusion, we saw the law of karma catches up. And how it gives you, when inappropriate actions are taken, guilt, fear, low self-esteem, suspicion, all this you cannot avoid. And when you cannot avoid all of that, are you going to be satisfied and happy human being? This is exactly what this verse is. You can accomplish in one given direction, that possibility is also there. But if you don't take, that if you don't use your buddhi to know the whole, then you cannot avoid what? Ashanti. Ashanti means lack of peace. Imbalance. Lack of imbalance leads to inappropriate actions, and inappropriate actions leads to all these problems. And when you don't have that, when you don't have Shanti, then where is the question of Sukham, the happiness that you are searching for?
But I think the bigger problem than the people sitting in front of you who are listening to you is that when you're dysfunctional in this way, you superimpose it on everyone else. You create so much unhappiness and you spread it to the web.
Absolutely.
And
unfortunately, absolutely. And Nawaz, unfortunately, all that unhappiness that you spread on the web, for generations sometimes it continues and it comes back to you.
Yeah.
But in a short vision, you feel, oh, I'm satisfied. You feel that you are a gainer, but actually you have to pay for it very That means you have that free will to expose yourself to Vedanta or Gita, or you have free will to engage in the world in any other way. That free will belongs to you. But if you choose with your own choice, please don't blame the world. Very nice thing that Nawaz was telling just after the class. And she was saying, you know, you need not worry about anybody else in the world, because where they are, there is a certain reason for it. They have created that little space for them. You can only help them. Well, how will you help them? To make them, if they are interested, you help them to see things differently, in light of which they will understand things differently and act differently. This is the real help. Otherwise, it's all just very superficial fixing.
Equally air fresh.
Exactly. You fresh and wonderful village, right? There is something which is causing bad air. You don't identify that object and take it out. You just put air freshener, which temporarily subsides. That's wonderful. So we keep on looking for air freshener solutions. We don't look into the cause. Okay? That human buddhi is capable of figuring out the cause and addressing it. But by your own limited thinking, you're like frog in the well. You choose to be within your comfort zone. Who will you blame? The world? Yourself. So this is what it says. The choice is given to you. You are endowed with that. A lot of people say, oh, you know, they postulate, and they said, you know what, oh yeah, but if you come from that underprivileged background, then where is that buddhi that is given? This is a very common question. The world has enough examples of people from very moderate background reaching heights that you cannot imagine. There is no human being who is categorically unprivileged. There is no human being who is categorically privileged. You have a T-Bala, Narendra Modi being Prime Minister of India. You ask all these CEOs in Silicon Valley, who has been to the best schools of India? In fact, 90% come from very modest background. You go to IIT here.
Also, you could be wealthy but really unhappy. So it all balances out.
Exactly. And who you think is privileged could have grown up in such a dysfunctional background that the person is carrying the burden of that for rest of one's life. So who you call privileged and who you call non-privileged, it's all very relative.
It's a very interesting exercise on this video, because like when you think of somebody whom you would exchange your life with, and when you really get down to doing that, you ultimately come to the conclusion that you are okay where you are. You really don't want to be Mukesh Ambani, because you'll be working 18 hours a day, whatever, and not be able to come and listen to the
Exactly. Right? So that means, please have confidence in your buddhi. If you, by your own choice, choose not to expose it to the right wisdom, you can't blame the world for it. Every time that the basis of the universe is this intelligence, Ishvara. Any time you want to come out of your entanglement, opportunity is given to you at your level. And the minute you take that opportunity and you move towards more and more clarity, one day will come that you will be given an opportunity to expose yourself to this knowledge, which gives you complete picture. And then you have to use your free will to pursue this knowledge. come in contact with it and you can still deny yourself this knowledge by using your own free will. Oh yeah, this is too difficult, this is too much, I don't have time. You all have. Okay. So this is where, without this total vision, there is no shanti and there is no happiness. Partial, yes, true, but not the total. The lasting happiness that we are seeking. Okay? So the next verse. The next verse is Indriyanam vicharatam yadmanonuvithiyate tadasya harate prajnam vayurnamumivamvasi. Indriyanam vicharatam yadmanonuvithiyate tadasya harate prajnam So here he says, if you don't equip yourself with this vision, which makes you understand clearly your nature, your position in the scheme of things, the nature of the cause of the universe, your relationship with that cause of the universe, then what happens is, it's that impartial understanding gives rise to your going with the power of the senses. You have no agenda, you don't know what life is meant for. So then what takes over? All your five senses. Because the five senses offer you infinite possibilities. In taste, in forms, in sounds, touch. One thing left. He says, Indriyanam vicharatam. Endless engaging in the world based on just the inputs which are received by the senses. And that the impact of those the inputs that are given by the senses, right, is so strong that little buddhi that you are given, as I told you, that basic understanding of dharma everybody is born with, what does it do? Diminishes.
Neutralized.
It is neutralized. Don't think that no, people don't have that. There is that sense, but it is not cultivated enough. So what takes over is what? The senses in your decision making. So this analogy is given by a beautiful example, like a boat. A boat which is going in the river, and imagine a storm, like a wind comes. Does the boat have the strength to withhold the power of the wind? It gets carried away. Right? So that little sense of right and wrong, what is appropriate, what is not appropriate that you are born with is not non-existent. It is like that little boat which gets carried away with what? All the feeding in of all indriyas and the pressures that are created by those indriyas. You lose your discretion. You lose your capacity to discern, to make right choices, right decisions. Then, what do you need to do? That little boat, which is your buddhi, your discretion, you make it into a huge ship. Through your own effort. Fill it with knowledge, fill it with wisdom, fill it with all your purushartha which makes you grow Spirituality is not about not having difficulties in life. It's not about not having challenges in life. Look at life of Arjuna, look at life of Krishna, full of challenges. If your attempt is to eliminate all the challenges, you'll never be successful. What has to be your attempt? Make your buddhi and your understanding so big and so strong that every challenge you can weather with certain amount of objectivity and lucidity. Then the external world loses its capacity to shake you. Because your understanding is much bigger than what any situation that can come before you. So that is the analogy to make you see how even though we are all born with a sense of right and wrong and sense of, wanting to achieve lasting happiness and all that, either you can choose to just make it a small flame which is just withered away by the force of the senses, or you can what? Pursue it and make your buddhi so solid and so embellished that you can see the whole and work or figure out each part and what needs to be done within it. Okay, so that is the next verse. Okay. Now, living a life of that wise person. Right? So here he says, Yanisha sarva bhutana tasyam jagrati sanyami yasyam jagrati bhutani sanisha pashyato munehe. These analogies are brilliant analogies. It says, literally it means that the realities that a wise person is alive to, rest of the world is asleep. And the reality that an unwise person is alive to is like darkness for the wise person. What does it mean? Where do unwise people put their eye? In this little body of mind. Where do wise people put their nature of eye? Satyam, Jnanam, Ananta. What is the difference between that vision and this vision? Like day and night. Encircling your awareness and giving it such a limited location, and seeing the true nature where it is free from identification. What is the magnitude of difference between these two visions? Not comparable. Unwise person takes this world as real. What is the vision of wise person? The world is within. There are forms within forms, within forms, within forms. The whole world collapses into awareness. What is the difference between the vision of a wise person and unwise person? Uncomparable. The wise person thinks that the unwise person thinks the objectivity lies. How far can my objectivity go? That in our normal parlance, the subjectivity is defined as, let's say that there is a rope. And it's dark because right now here is not well lit. and it is all green, and you see an object which is this long, and with that width, you conclude that it is a snake. So that means what is out there is a rope, and what do you see?
Snake.
Snake. So that means you are being subjective, right? Because what is out there is not what you see. What is there is a rope, and what you see is a snake. Now what is objective? When I see a rope as a rope, that is objective, right? And my objectivity ends there, without Vedanta. Vedanta stretches my objectivity to levels that nobody else has imagined. It says, okay, that's true. Compared to snake, rope is a much more sane vision, but the inquiry of reality doesn't end there. This rope itself is what? The strings. And that each string is nothing but fibers. The fibers are nothing but molecules. The molecules are nothing but atoms. Even the scientist goes very far in objectivity because the scientist sees much more than a common man sees. The scientist is able to go from rope to atoms and particles. Refine Buddhi. Now Vedanta takes you even one step further. It makes you see even further reality and say, you know, these atoms and particles itself, where is the end? It all resolves in concept. After a point, there is no tangible object anymore. Okay? But how is it that a concept manifests as its tiniest particles and it gets organized in a way that now it becomes the fiber, then the strings, then the rope? There is what we call intelligence. That intelligence, from the fibers, some human being makes a rope. That whole intelligence which brings about those strings gives human being the intelligence to make a rope out of it. It's all governed by the intelligence which is Ishvara. Vedanta takes your objectivity to another level. Normal human being will end at rope. Scientist will end at atoms and particles. Vedanta ends up with Ishvara. That intelligence which makes it happen. Which is the basis of the whole universe. And it's not outside the universe, it pervades the universe. So that means it takes your vision from rope to Ishvara. Where is the difference? What is the level of difference between a normal person and Vedantin? Day and night. And finally, you haven't yet come to the culmination of Vedanta. The last card is still there in the last class. Last card, the final card. The final card is what is the relationship between awareness that I am and what is this awareness? Sat, Chit, Ananda. And Ishvara, the intelligence which manifests the universe and organizes it in a way that I have all these experiences. What is the relationship between that awareness and that intelligence? Are they two different things? No. They are not two different things. Awareness is who I am. Ishvara is what? The intelligence which manifests as all the different laws. What is the relationship between all intelligence and awareness?
When I am force becomes one.
This so-called division, because that awareness, look at the relationship between all intelligence and awareness. We have understood Satyam and Mithya. That which is independently existing and that which has a dependent existence. Now, figure out, this all intelligence, can it exist without awareness? Does awareness require intelligence for its manifestation? For it to be there? No. So that means the relationship between the all intelligence and awareness is also what? All intelligence, if you call as Ishvara, what is the truth of that Ishvara? The same awareness that you are. One awareness seen from standpoint of one little individual is what we call jiva. Individual. The same awareness seen with its capacity to project the universe and become the entire universe is called what? Ishvara. But both come from where? One undivided awareness. Upanishads say Tat Tvam Asi. Tat, the cause of the universe, which seems to you like a remote thing. Tvam, me, that little individual who is always struggling. Always trying to catch a few moments of happiness. When I really look into the reality of this Tvam, where do I end up? Not into this body and mind, but into that awareness. When I look into the truth of the cause of the universe, the all intelligence from which comes all the different laws, where do I come to? Ishvara and then awareness. Awareness, is it divided? No. In one awareness, the same awareness, when you see it from the standpoint of that which brings about the universe, you call it Ishvara, and organizes the universe in an intelligent manner so that all these interactions can take place, you call it Ishvara. And within that vast universe, you, the little form, the body and mind, when you see that awareness from that standpoint, you call it what? The individual. But there is an equation. But in understanding that equation, one has to be very careful. Because when you resolve the equation at a wrong place, it is a huge mistake. When you are equated to Ishvara, does it mean that you can create the laws like gravity? No. You can change the future and the laws which are existing, which are connecting just instantaneously. No. Okay. So that means when individual is equated to Ishvara and you resolve that equation at a wrong place, you will start believing I'm from me, the little individual, what happens, the time comes, space comes, the whole universe comes. Is it true? You are mental. Somebody will put you in mental hospital.
Not change anything.
Right? It is like, this kind of a thing is like, when I tell you 3 plus 2 is equal to 6 minus 1. This is an equation. 3 plus 2 is equal to 6 minus 1 is an equation. Right? Now, why is it an equation? Because there is a point of resolution. What is that point of resolution? 5. 5 is a point of resolution because 3 plus 2 is equal to 5 and 6 minus 1 is also equal to 5. So 5 is the point where it resolves. There is an equity. Now, if I don't understand that right, and if I say 3 plus 2 is equal to 6 minus 1 means 3 is equal to 6. Plus is equal to minus. 2 is equal to 1. What have I done? I have gone crazy. Because I have not resolved the equation at the right place. The point of resolution is 5. Not 3 is 6, plus is minus, and 2 is 1. At that level, there is a difference. 3 is different from 6. Plus is different from minus. 2 is different from 1. But there is a point of resolution at 5. Say, you are equated to Ishvara. What level? If I look at myself as I understand myself to be, I am limited in every way. I am limited by my knowledge. I am limited by my power. I am limited by my capacity to influence things according to my wishes. I am limited in every way. And how is Ishvara? Because of which each one has the capacity to desire, capacity to know, capacity to act. That intelligence which makes that whole show possible. From atoms and particles, imagine you arrange them in a permutation and combination which makes planets, which makes galaxies, which makes mountains, which makes billions of species within this world. And connects all of them through Indra's light. That is Ishvara. All knowledge. Me, limited knowledge, Ishvara, all knowledge. Very different. Okay. Where is the point of resolution? Here and now, exactly. Here and now in awareness. Because that little knowledge is mithya. It depends upon awareness. Knowledge cannot exist without awareness. Whereas awareness is independent of knowledge. So that little knowledge that I have is not who I am. because of which I am aware of this little knowledge which comes in this. And what is Ishvara? The all knowledge is equally the awareness. Right? The awareness because of which all knowledge is possible. In order for you to understand that, it is difficult, but there is a very easy example which enables you to understand, and that is that of wave and the ocean. Wave and the ocean. Now, wave is told there is an identity between you and the ocean. Wave says, what rubbish. I'm this little wave. And how big is the ocean? Huge. I have very limited existence. What is the ocean's existence? So many waves come and go, ocean is. How can I be equated to the ocean? It's impossible. It's true. If you look at it's like equating 3 plus 2 is equal to 6 minus 1. They are obviously different. Wave is different from the ocean. But there is a point of resolution. And what is that point of resolution? Water. Because if you look at the wave, the form, what do you come to? The reality of that wave, which is what? Nothing but water. Then why do you have the name wave?
Because of the essential form.
Exactly, because it refers to a form. So that means wave, water, when you see it with reference to that given form, you give it a name called wave. Now this entire ocean, when you inquire into the truth of that ocean, what do you come to? Water. Right? Then why do you have the name, 2 different names, wave and ocean? The forms are different. Wave has a different form, it's a limited form. The ocean is all-encompassing, different forms. Please don't resolve your equation there. Where do you resolve the equation? In the wave. Because if you look into the truth of the wave, you come to water. When you look into the truth of this vast ocean, which includes all the waves, you also come to what? Water. Water, while appearing as ocean and wave, does it intrinsically undergo any change? No. It remains H2O. Water. Water seen from the standpoint of totality, ocean. Water seen from one form, from the standpoint of one form, wave. But the whole play of small and that which is big, which encompasses everything, is on one reality of water. So that means the equation between wave and ocean resolves where? At the level of water. When you resolve that equation, you resolve the forms? No. The forms remain different. When the wave understands that there is an equation between I and the ocean, the wave does not become the ocean. The wave understands that the reality of me is water, and the reality of this big ocean, which not only includes me, but every other wave, is also equally the water. Keeping the differences where you see the underlying non-difference. Underlying non-difference. This is the last card of Vedanta. You are equated to your essential nature, which is Sat Chit Anand. You ask a wise person, who are you? He or she will not put one's eye in the body and mind, and he will say Sachin. If you have an opportunity and you go to Ishvara and ask, what is your nature? Ishvara will say what? Sat Chit Anand. What is the difference between you and me? You don't know it. Ishvara knows it. Because that is there in this knowledge, right? It is there. It is given to us to be figured out. We are given the possibility of figuring it out. And this is why a wise person is so clever, makes use of all these clues and figures it out. All the clues are given. Exactly.
This is the same thing like our names are formed. And then the river meets the ocean. You relinquish the identity and move to the sea and now. Similarly for a human being, all name, ego, everything drops down.
See,
Satchidanand.
yeah. See, one thing is that that's a very good question. Let's look into these verses because, okay, now there are two things here that we have to understand. When a wave understands that all that is here is water, does the wave give up its form? No. It remains, but it is what we call enlightened wave. Because it doesn't mistake oneself to be just that little thing. It understands actually all that is here is water. It enjoys that uniqueness. Lovely. I am essentially the water appearing as wave. Have fun. This smallness is not me. This is just that form gives me some privileges to engage in the world in my unique way. Everything that you are given becomes a privilege.
Just live it as the wave. Anyway, you will ultimately merge with water.
Absolutely.
The wave is going to finish
While you have that unique individuality engaged, you don't need to disintegrate that individuality.
It will happen anyway.
It will happen anyway. Perfect. Whole life. So that means the difference between a wise and not wise person at all these levels, between what? Day and night. Externally, the person may look exactly the same. The person is not going to grow beards and change the clothes. These are all very superficial. It doesn't mean that all those people don't have the knowledge. That is not what I want to say. But once you have that knowledge, you don't need anything. What you have understood, nothing can take away from you. Nobody can take it away from you. Right? So this is the difference between a wise person and a non-wise person. Just looking at that person, there is no stamp of a wise person or a non-wise person. Where is the difference? Where is the difference? Where what you understand. That opportunity. Every human being can become wise. Everybody. Right? So that means you just have to work towards it. But you can. Gently, lovely. Right? So this is what he says. There is a night and day of difference between wise and unwise person. Right? Now a wise person, how does that person live one's life? Abhodyamanam machala pradesham samudramapa pravishanti yadvata tadvatkamayam pravishanti sarveve sashakti mamno Nakamani. Repeat. Ahuryamanam Pachala Pratishtam. Samudramapa Pravishanti Yadvata. Tadvat Kamayam Pravishanti Sarve. Sashanti Mapnoti Nakamakami. Beautiful analogy again. It gives an analogy of an ocean. A wise person is equated to an ocean in this analogy. Why? Because in that ocean, what happens is waves come and waves go. When the wave comes, does it make the ocean more filled? When the wave goes, does it make the person less fulfilled? All the waves come and go. The fullness is always there. Right? There is a very fundamental difference between the unwise person interacts with the world to what? Fill the lack.
Perceived lack.
Perceived, exactly. Fill the perceived lack that one is experiencing. A wise person engages in the world. Not that the person has to stay away from the world. Equally engages in the world, but is it to fill the lack? No. I am the whole. That is understood. All the preparation which is necessary to what? Master my senses, master my mind, master my emotions, everything, the whole process is over. Then I engage in the world out of what? Fullness. It's not that I'm dependent upon the person, on the world to satisfy me because I'm fulfilled by my knowledge of who really I am. Then I engage in the world as from my fullness. I can do many things. I need not be afraid of desires. He says, just as the waves come and go, it doesn't do anything to the ocean. The desires come and go from the mind of a wise person. One more fulfillment of desire doesn't make the person more happy. One less fulfillment of desire doesn't make the person any less. Desires are privilege. So engage in the world. Some will get fulfilled, some others won't get fulfilled. So what? I find myself free from the hold of desire because the only desirable thing, which is self-knowledge, is there. The only really desire, which is the key to my struggle in this world. Once I have used the key and solved the whole puzzle, I don't need to be afraid of the world. I have used my buddhi to the maximum extent possible to what? Solve this whole mystery. Who am I? Why am I here? What is it that I need to do? What is it that I need to accomplish? And how do I engage? Whole thing is clear. Okay? So therefore, once the whole thing is clear and you are not afraid of your desires, they come and they go, you engage in the world, you become a contributor. That's when you can actually become a real contributor, because you don't want anything from the world. So this is what he says. There is a fullness. We only know one way of engaging in the world is that from the sense of lack. The wise person engages in the world from the sense of fullness. You are given a few years to enjoy what interaction on a completely different terms. Right? And this is why symbolically you see Lord Krishna is in the midst of all different problems. Right? If you look at his life, what is his life? Horrible life. He was born in a jail. He had to grow up not with his real mother but some other mother. Then when he was very young, his own uncle wanted to kill him. But this is a traumatic life. Totally traumatic life. How is he? Must. But not just must, with ganja also you can be must. Very intelligent. Very clever. Exactly. Why? And he is always right. Nothing that happens, he is happy. And he's enjoying. Is he all sad? Oh my, childhood issue and all.
Childhood issue.
He's got so many bookies, he's forgotten all about the past.
That's why we're successful.
Right. What makes him on top of everything? Just what he understands. And his vision was so clear in the entire Mahabharata. Every character has some amazing some strengths and some flaws. There is one person who sees everything in right perspective, and that is Krishna. Because he has the vision of the whole. So this is what you can become. This is what he told Arjuna, that you can, because essentially we are both awareness. I'm giving you this knowledge when this is the greatest secret in the world. You live your lifetimes not knowing this reality. And you grapple with darkness, making sense of life. This is a secret, and if you know this secret, you and me are what? Right? And so everybody, we are not here to just idealize Lord Krishna. What? Because in this vision, there is no difference between him, essentially between any jiva and Krishna. Jiva is an individual, and Krishna is a group. Right? So the person lives out of fullness. Okay? So that's what he says. Vihaya kamanya sarva upamscharati nisprumaha nirmamo nirahankaraha sashantinadi gacchati. The understanding of I has gone through scales of what? Transformation. Scales. The total paradigm shift. Okay? How does the person transact with the world? Shanti. Shanti means whatever the capacity of buddhi, that the most you can use your buddhi, you used it to the fullest extent. Right? Nirmamaha, nirahankaraha. Nirahankaraha does not mean that the person is kind of, has totally, please understand, right? Not this sense of I. There are some people who are, our teacher used to make fun of them. He said the minute they come to Vedanta, they will change the terminology. They'll say the body is taking a shower. Because that I am not the body. Right? The mind is I'm eating, I'm talking. You can be very normal. You don't have to act funny. Because you have knowledge. In fact, you are more normal than any other person. Okay? What is changing is nothing external about you. What is changing is knowledge. What makes you a wise person is the knowledge. Right? And the knowledge, if you really have it, it shines like bright sun. How you talk about Vedanta, how clear are you about what you are talking about? It's a giveaway. Either you can create concepts and make it pseudo-intellectual and all confusing, or you can just make the other person see, even though the person may not understand totally what you are saying, but you can give clarity to that person. That is a difference between a scholar of Vedanta and a person who has understood the vision of Vedanta.
That brings also Viveka.
Exactly. All subtle. And how do you know? Everybody wants to learn from a wise person. Will you go and with a torch and look for a wise person?
Wouldn't you say that some people are practicing the Vedanta without even knowing it? You sometimes come across people who have so much wisdom in the way they handle their lives and others, but they don't even know what Vedanta is and all.
That's true. That's true. You can have, what they said, what our teacher used to say is, what you're saying is right. In fact, because this is the truth, every culture and traditions, you see how open-minded he was, had some insight into it. If you look at this, the American Indians, the shaman and all, they have some intuitive understanding. In every culture, even before, he said, before in Europe, before the Christianity totally took over, there were some native cultures of Europe which had that understanding. There was an event in Europe which was called witch hunt. Witch hunt was the church wanted to, there were many people who were worshipping the sun, the many people who were looking at nature, finding themselves one with it, and they thought this is all not fitting the description. They were idol worshippers, they were nature worshippers, they were deluded. So that means each of these persons who believed in that was eliminated. But in spite of that, there are people who still have certain insight. Many people, you see many these Christian scholars and all, they are very, very evolved. Don't think that they are very evolved. Right? Now, so that means it's available in one form or the other everywhere. What makes Vedanta a very powerful tradition is that it has a very evolved, a sophisticated methodology to make you see this vision. I may intuitively feel one with the universe. I may intuitively say, okay, now this is just an appearance, right? But I can't substantiate any of these little feelings that I have. I can't enter into a dialogue with physicists and talk about it intelligently and convince him. It just says that this is some mystic who is just thinking, nobody will take you seriously, even though you may have insight. This is an incredible tradition where there is a very sophisticated methodology which takes into account everything and makes you think about each part of that puzzle and puts the whole puzzle together. It is ingenious. It is ingenious because it has that facility. It doesn't have any logical gaps. It is not only talking about just some awareness without, making you understand about the presence of Ishvara. It is not just talking about Ishvara and awareness without the necessity for your growth. It takes into account each of these elements and it puts it in its right place to give you this whole coherent vision. It's a beauty.
I have an answer for that. There is a lot of research on personal opinion. I've shared with you. That, what her question was, that people are very successful in the global Vedanta. But when I investigated, what I found was that when you are practicing Vedanta unconsciously, and you are successful, and you made $10, and if you're consciously practicing, you make $1 billion.
That's not a question. That wasn't a question. No.
You said people are successful.
No, she said people are practicing Vedanta without even knowing that they're practicing Vedanta.
That's what I'm saying. I'm talking of in a form of success.
She's not talking of success.
No, I'm talking of
She's not talking of monetary success. Yeah.
No, but Namita, this is one level of answering the question that intuitively you can know it, but you don't really know. The other way of answering is, as I told you, you can be very good, like a scientist is very good. You can be a highly ethical person, but you haven't figured out the total thing.
With what she's saying, with everything being very logical and in order, so intellectually, completely intellectualized. Just want to add a little something to that. In a given situation, I've been taught by my father that don't look at a person and don't look at what's written, don't look at anything. Look at the energy and look at the intention, read between the lines. What is really going on in a situation. So you don't get distracted by the words, the showmanship, the clothes, even if it's a legal document, don't read it. What is really trying to happen? So you develop, as she kept saying earlier, that subtlety and that discretion, the intuition, which has been squashed intellectually otherwise. To let the kata is more neurons associated with it in the brain. It's a very, very valid sense. To let that be out there a little bit more is also a very large piece of the puzzle.
But like you said, everyone doesn't have the whole thing. You
No.
do see people who have so many things of what we've read today on wise percents, but they may not have everything.
Sure, obviously.
I've also seen people who have it and I'm amazed that, oh my God, they don't need to study.
Yeah.
But in other aspects, they lack completely.
Yeah, and with the study
You
itself
can be
also.
highly ethical, but you may not understand Ishvara.
Sure.
You see what I mean? And you may understand Ishvara, but you take yourself as just one little entity who's connected to the whole. So that means that you can be highly evolved human being, but you can still make mistakes in some areas.
Whereas if you understand it,
Then the whole thing is put
comes together.
You may instinctively be doing it right, but that doesn't mean that you have the knowledge which grounds you, and then you are steadfast.
It seems it.
Right? So then he says, now this is the last verse, so I will complete it. It's one, but it will take me 5 minutes. Okay. So here he says, Esha Brahmi Sthiti Prajna Naina Prapya Vibhutyati Sthitva Syamantakaleti Brahma Nirvana Vichati. Once you understand this equation, can anybody take away that understanding from you? It's solved. Right? Where is the place where you understood the equation? Where was the confusion in your mind? Where did you solve the equation in your mind? Right? The mind is limited or limitless? Limited. Yeah. It will go away one day. Mind is what is the age, how long the mind will survive till the body is. After 80 years your mind is gone. The knowledge will not go.
You mean the knowledge continues with the spirit thereof.
So that means what happens? Okay. For everybody world, this is what he says, Esha Brahmi Sthiti Partha Nai Eva Prapya Vimukti. Once you understand that you are that Brahman, which is the whole, which is the truth of the creation, you never lose this knowledge. Okay? What happens, and then that is what we call moksha. We started with what? Pursuit of moksha. Where are we ending? Freedom. Freedom centered on I by solving the equation. Now, you are given this body and mind to figure out. You leave this world not solving the equation. What happens? You still have partial knowledge, scattered knowledge, or no knowledge, and you leave. So many people die without even hearing the word Vedanta, or even suspecting that they are anything other than the body. So this is where what Vedanta says is that in addition to this physical body and the subtle body that you have, what is a physical body? All this, everything that I can tangibly see. What is a subtle body? The subtle body is not something which is like, we think, aura, we always imagine things, right? According to Vedanta, subtle body means that not only you have physical eyes, you have something subtle which makes your eyes see. That's why a person can have beautiful physical eyes and cannot see. But when you look at the person, you have no idea. Why? Because it is subtle. There is one aspect which is the physical aspect of your eyes, which is part of the physical body. There is another aspect which is the sight, the capacity of your eyes to see, which is subtle. And only you know how much you can see or not see. From my standpoint, it is subtle. Subtle because it's not available for mine. I cannot tangibly see it. The whole thought process that you have is part of the physical body or subtle body? Subtle. Why? Because a scientist can look into your physical brain, but it can't figure out the exact nature of your thoughts. That's why it's subtle. Because only you know it. Only you know your thoughts. I can infer your thoughts by your physical expressions, by how you behave, but I don't really know exactly what you're thinking. That is all what we call subtle. So the physical and subtle is there. Now, if you have left this world without figuring out this whole equation, what happens is there is a third thing that carries forward, and that is what we call the cosmos, or the causal. What is the causal body? In Sanskrit you call it Karana Sharira. What is this Karana Sharira? What does it consist of? The cause, the Karana Sharira only means the cause which gives you this body and all the other subsequent bodies. Right? So what is it which constitutes causal body? It constitutes all the, as I told you, every action has a result. Right? So therefore, there is one thing which is what we call the seen result. If I do something appropriate, I feel happy, I feel satisfied, that is the seen result. But there is something which is also what we call the unseen result, which is going to come to me sometime in the future. That is what we call, it goes into my account. It will bring situations in the future, either while I am in this body or So therefore, for the unwise person, all these unseen results, which we call punya and papa. The unseen result of a good action is what? Punya. The unseen result of an inappropriate action is papa. So that means I have all these accounts in my causal body. When I have my unique unseen results, those unseen results will produce what? I have to go through the results. I need to experience those results. How will I experience the results? Without a body and mind, I cannot experience the results. So that means I have to keep on taking different bodies and minds to experience the result of those. For those accumulated actions for which I have not yet experienced the result. Now, what happens is, how long does it continue? As long as, because you know what, by the time I come to this world, I have to experience the result, but do I only experience the result? I also act and I accumulate new result, new unseen result.
When it is equal.
So it is never ending. You can't, this is why we call it samsara chakra. It goes on and it goes on and it goes on. It is endless. How do you get out of it? By knowing I'm not this little body, I'm not this little mind, I'm not this little individual who performs actions and accrues a result. I am the whole. The minute you have done that, you negate, you falsify this personality which you thought to be the reality about you for lifetimes. So that means the causal body not is all the unseen karmas that we have along with what we call avidya. Avidya is not knowing the reality. Not knowing the reality about yourself, you think I'm an individual. I'm an individual, I engage in the world, I perform actions, the results of those actions accrue to me. Some results are experienced during this lifetime, others will be experienced in subsequent lifetimes with different bodies and different minds. In one lifetime, I get out of the whole thing by figuring out I'm not this little individual. Who am I? Satyam, Jnana, Ananta, Brahma. The minute I figure it out, the beautiful song that Namita sang, Manaha Buddhihi Ahankara Chittani Namaha. I am not this little buddhi, not this little mind, not this little memory, not this little sense of I. None of these senses, Nacha Chakshu, I am not even the eyes, I am not my sense of smell, I am not my sense of hearing, I am not my sense of touch. I am also not the physical body which is made up of 5 elements. Nacha, Vyoma, Bhumi, Na Tejaha, Na Vayu. I am not the 5 elements from which this physical body is made. Akasha, the space, Vayu, air, Agni, fire, Apaha, water, and earth. Then who am I? Chidananda Rupa, Shivoham, Shivo. I am that awareness, and what is that awareness? Which is equal to the awareness which is of Shiva, the cause of the universe, which is the only thing that exists in the universe. Everything is as it is and has a dependent reality. This makes me a wise person. I have negated something that everybody else is fooled by. What have I taken care of? The ignorance which makes me think I'm an individual and makes me accumulate karma and puts me in that chakra of samsara infinitely. Now, the ignorance is addressed. The entire account, which is the unseen result of all your past actions, is what? All burned. Because that individuality I have negated as reality of myself. There is the question of account. I am the whole, undivided.
So all your papas and punyas are
Exactly.
gone.
All your papa and punya
Balance sheet is clear.
the whole account. Our teacher used to say the account is closed. This is why, while you have one given body and mind, you enjoy it. But once it drops, you are not going to come back as one individual experiencing awareness through that little tiny entity and keep on struggling with life. The whole thing is solved. This is what we call moksha. There is no more coming back as a little tiny individual. Some people get scared of this concept. They say, oh my God, I will cease to exist. Is it ceasing to exist?
But when you merge with the whole, you still cease to exist.
You don't come back in a form as though
But is your awareness still there?
Awareness is always there.
Is always there.
Awareness,
You merge into the awareness.
Yeah, but are you still an awareness on your, you have an
not
awareness, you have
an
no awareness.
individual, not an individual awareness.
That's okay, but is it still existent or is
Yeah,
it mitigated?
no. The awareness is the only satyam. It is the, while the forms are changing, it is the unchanging reality. It can never be displaced. That is what you are. While
But
the
I
forms-
don't know I as I know I anymore.
No.
Even just as my own awareness forgets
Exactly,
body, mind,
because
and
you're right. The way you know yourself as I, which is a highly limited I, is because of the as though confinement of body and mind. That goes in. You don't come back to experience that awareness in that limited way. Okay? Yeah, wonderful, right? So what Rashma is asking is, after the person becomes wise, the person continues to engage in the world and continues to do things. What happens to the result of those actions?
Papa punyas you will accumulate from today till you go.
Yeah, exactly. Right? So that means the individuality is completely negated in the vision of the wise person, right? The mind has solved that problem, right? So Sanchit, the entire karma which is in your account will all go, right? Agami karma, which is what we call what you have done after the knowledge takes place, or during this lifetime, right? There are two ways of looking at it, right? You can say it also has to equally go, because that individual, the real individual is not there anymore. So you can't have anything added to it. The second way of looking at it is that punya and papa gets distributed among people who are associated with that person. So in Tattvabodha it is said that the people who take care of that jnani, all the punya goes towards those people. The people who condemn or to put down or give difficulty to the jnani, the papa will go towards them.
Which is why you often hear about needing to do this because of your ancestors and so on and so forth. With regulations,
So that means it's all just gone, because that entity to which all the punya papa get attached is gone through knowledge.
Or from today till when you are doing last.
Yes.
At that time, if that knowledge is still there, does that
Wonderful. He says, very good. And this is exactly what he says. Sthitva antakale api brahma nirvana ruchati. Imagine your whole life you listened to Vedanta, but you felt that you didn't quite totally understand the entirety totally clearly. There is some knowledge, there are some insights, but still there is, there is a process of growing clarity that everything is not exactly where it is. So that means your whole life you lived listening to it, thinking about it, making necessary changes in your personality to be able to understand that reality. Now, at the end, you get it. What happens? Is there any time gap between that knowledge and liberation?
Knowledge and
Liberation. The minute you have that knowledge, you are free. Because awareness is already free. Awareness is already the only reality that is here and now.
If you don't get the full vision of the God,
keep coming back.
And you scream.
Then that is interesting, right? So this is again the difference of what
Then you come back as a goat.
exactly. Right? So
She
this
says
is
we come back as goats. We don't get it now.
No, the rebirth I think
Goat in
happens
Saudi
and
Arabia.
you are still connected to Vedanta. There will be an opportunity in your rebirth to connect to
Exactly.
Vedanta.
Even going through
Exactly. So this is what Lord Arjuna, Lord Krishna is asking. It was Arjuna's question to Lord Krishna. He was listening with all these awe, and then he was trying to figure it all out. And being the person who was so brilliant as Arjuna, he was good at everything. Arjuna was not a loser. He was brilliant, right? And he still asked, oh my God, if I leave this world without totally understanding this whole thing, what will happen to me? So Lord Krishna says, don't worry. Nothing that you have studied will be lost. Right? Once you come to this knowledge, you have come. Before you come to this knowledge, with the way you live your life, because of your partial understanding or whatever, you keep on entangling your life further and further. Now you have started a process of
Detangling.
detangling. Once you have started that process, you are actually, it's a completely different life journey.
But actually, Namita's answer was much nicer. She said,
As a
if you
ghost?
don't understand, you come back as a goat in Saudi Arabia. You're in Ramadan.
Okay, so that means you will be connected to this knowledge in one way or the other. It says you will be born in a family, which is a beautiful thing. Right? He says there are different possibilities. You will be born in a family which is wealthy. What has wealth got to do with Vedanta?
You can serve others.
Yeah, and and it enables you.
Imagine
It gives you the
your whole
time.
life is exactly a struggle to make the ends meet. When will you have time for Vedanta? So that means a certain comfort is a privilege. It enables you to do so many things which others, even if they may want, they may be compelled, to do something else. So Srimata. But you can be, as Namita says, you can be born in a very wealthy family but in a traumatic, dysfunctional family. Again, a disadvantage. Seems like an advantage, but it is, yes, you have a lot of leisure, but you have no, all screwed up psychology. Then he says, Srimatam, and then also what he says, in a family with right values. Beautiful. Not only in a wealthy family, or sometimes may not even have been in a wealthy family, but in the family where there are healthy relationships. another possibility. Because when you grow with some right nurturing, right values, right attitudes, with love and care, you grow up with a certain amount of self-esteem.
When you are given birth like this in a privileged or unprivileged position, does the greater powers that be take into account what is going to happen in the future in that family and in that position, or they're only seeing what's present and
They're
past?
only seeing, because see the present
Because
is
things
that
can go
which
very
is-
wrong from there also.
Exactly. So that means life will, your past karmas will unfold situations over your life period. That's why you call it karma. It has already started unfolding, but it will give you different situations, right? But it is not something which is like 100% fixed. What happens is you constantly respond to those
So that is the
situations.
future that then you are
Exactly. So there's a dynamic thing. That's why the minute you come to this knowledge, you will see your whole life changes. Like how she gave a very nice example of last night, but I don't want to.
No, I did it so long, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Okay, what are the other ones? There are 5. You said 2 of them. One is to be in a wealthy family. The second is
Yeah.
to be in a family with good values.
Yeah, the family with good values. I didn't say 5. I said there are several. Your punyas can manifest in several ways, right? Or it says you will be born in a family of wise people. Imagine you are born to a family where your parents they know this knowledge. You have such an advantage, right? So that means all these possibilities, and within those possibilities, then still it is not big. And what it says is you will be during this lifetime connected to this knowledge. This is why we can see people who connect to this knowledge at times are from extremely wealthy family, or they are from what? Not only from wealthy family, right? You have people who are just basically intelligent. Swamiji's Sailor's Ashram is full of these IIT graduates who are doing so well. They will come from modest background, they've reached heights of success because of their brilliance, but they are still searching for something more. So those brilliant people, or people who come from Vedic families, where from the birth they are taught Gayatri Mantra. They are given some prayers. There are some people who can recite the entire Gita before they come, even to come and learn from it. So you have all these different types of people. They all have gathered punya, but they all have gathered punya in a way that it gives them different types of births.
And if you birth, then you again got your free mind. So you
Exactly.
again calculate your
Having connected you to this knowledge, again, it is no guarantee. Because it still is a function of how much effort are you going to put to understand this knowledge, and how much effort are you going to put to grow into an individual who becomes a deserving recipient for this knowledge. But the journey will go on until it culminates into how many lifetimes? How long? I don't know. I don't know.
Just have to pray that we get
But
the right choice.
This is where the infallibility of modern knowledge. You will be taken. You will be taken.